All right, well, welcome to part 2 of memorizing Psalm 46 using a memory palace method. We started off in the last video. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you start with that first video first, because that's where we lay out all the different locations on our golf course. We have 1, the tree. We've got 2, the tee box with those 2 tees. 3, we pull out that 3 wood in order to hit the ball. 4 is the 4 tires of the golf cart that we're using to drive around. 5 is putting on that golf glove so we can remember that and dealing with the ball. 6 is lining up where we're going to do by almost like we're looking down our 6 shooter and aiming down at the green. 7 is that water that separates us and the green that we hit that ball into. The odds are high that we're always going to hit it into the water, and even when we throw the dice down, it lands in the water. So that's how we remember number 7. 8 is the sand in the sand trap, because it's almost like that sand timer. Number 9 is all of those cats that are on the green, cats having 9 lives. 10 is the bowling pin that is actually the flag where we're trying to hit the ball. And then 11 is that sign, that football sign saying it's good, and that's where we end. We know that we have 11 verses in Psalm 46. So the second step is taking and encoding each verse to those places so that we can remember them. Now, I want to say, I really want to jump into this, and I will just a moment, but I want to say 4 quick things. The first is, this is going to feel really weird at first if you've never done it before. Encoding is trying to make the craziest story, the craziest images to help you remember and make this stick in your brain. Don't let that discourage you. Have fun with it. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. You've only tried this once for 1 chapter of the Bible. But if it really works for you, if you enjoy doing it, now you have a new tool in your tool belt that you can use. Second thing I want to say is that you need to make this your very own. Even as I was crafting this and developing this for Psalm 46 and trying to review it for myself, I found that I had to change some of the things because the memory just wasn't sticking for me. That particular picture didn't mean what I thought it did, and so I needed to change it around. Don't use what I'm giving you just because I give it to you. Make it your own. Change the story if you have to. Change the images. I'm going to try to explain why I do certain images, but maybe it just doesn't make sense to you. You don't know who that person is or that actor is, and so you need to change it. That's okay. The third thing I wanted to say is a lot of times I make word associations either through specific memories that I have, but also via sound. So for example, therefore, you'll notice in verse 2, I actually take a fork and I shove it in the ground. That fork, that therefore, anything for me is therefore I see I'm shoving a fork somewhere. And that action is what triggers in my brain to know that the word is therefore. I've got a lot of these different words that, ways that I remember the word because, or ways that I remember the word which, right? All of these things that don't necessarily have to do with the word itself, it's just what I've associated with the word. Likewise, the word God is always to me symbolized by a ball, just a perfectly round, perfectly shiny ball. You're going to see that in Psalm 46. So just keep that in mind as we're going along. The last thing I'll say, I promise, we're almost done, is that we're about to go through all this, and instead of making you have to watch the video over and over again if you forget some parts, you can download my entire explanation of how I memorized Psalm 46. All you have to do is go to BibleMemoryGoal.com/Psalm 46, all one word, and you can download. It's just a simple PDF. It's going to have everything that I'm explaining to you right now, and that way you can just look it over. Or if you don't even want to listen to me talk about it, you can just download it right now and not even finish the rest of this video. That's fine with me. I'm just trying to give you another way of doing this. All right. Let's dive in. Here we go. We're at Psalm 46. Remember, we're right under a tree. That's what helps us remember that we're in verse 1. And I always remember this ball. So if you can imagine somebody's standing under this tree and the ball drops down and hits him on the head. Now, this person happens to be a referee. They've got a ref shirt on and everything. The stripes, the black and white stripes, that's what helps me remember God is our refuge. Refuge, that ref, okay? And that refuge, as soon as the ball hits his head, he flexes because he's so mad. He flexes out. My God is my refuge and strength. Now here's where it gets a little crazy. He flexes so hard that his biceps explode. And with those biceps, there's gifts within each bicep. 2 gifts. One is a help wanted sign. Don't ask me why. And the other is a game of trouble. Do you ever remember that game of trouble where you had to press in and play the game of trouble? So he flexes. The ref flexes so hard that he has gifts burst out of his biceps, and you've got those 2 different gifts. So that's what helps me remember that God is a refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Help in trouble. Like I said, crazy, fun, but hopefully that's what's going to help you remember this verse 1. Okay, moving on to verse 2. Verse 2, we're approaching the golf tee, all right? And as I'm approaching this golf tee, the first thing I notice is, where am I at? Oh yeah, so I'm going to stick a big fork in the grass. So instead of using a tee, a golf tee, I'm going to take and stick a big fork, and that's going to be my golf tee. So therefore, and here's where it gets a little interesting, because I had a hard time remembering we will not. All right, that will verb. So in my memory here, when I stick that fork down and I'm about to go get ready to put my ball on the tee, which is the fork, Will Smith comes in. Will Smith, of all people, I have no idea why, and he pulls a ball out of his ear. He pulls a ball out of his ear and puts it on my fork. So we will not fear. That's how I remember that. So Will Smith coming, pulling a ball out of his ear and putting it on the fork. We will not fear. But here's where it gets even crazier, okay? In addition to doing that, now all of a sudden, Will Smith pulls out some cookie dough, and in 2 different ovens, these 2 ovens, again, helping to remember that we're in verse 2, he takes that cookie dough and he puts it in and cooks 2 different types of cookies. One, he pulls out and he decorates it like an earth. Like you can see the blue and the different continents on the earth. And then he pulls out the other one and it's a mountain. He makes a cookie that looks like a mountain. It's so weird, and you actually take a bite of it. It's so disgusting that you drop it into a can that is in the shape of a heart that has water in it. Okay? So again, try to visualize this as much as possible and embrace the crazy of it all. So we've got Will Smith, we will not fear, taking the cookie dough, though. For me, cookie dough and though sound very similar, and so that's where I'm pulling that though. Though the earth give way, so that's where the earth, and the mountains, and then I'm going to take that mountain, I'm going to fall into the heart of the sea, the heart-shaped can that's filled with water, heart of the sea. You can change that however you want, but that's been an image that has been funny and crazy enough for me to remember. So that is verse 2, all of this happening with Will Smith at the tee box. All right, verse 3 is a little bit fun because that's where I'm pulling out my 3 club, my 3 wood, all right? And I'm gonna notice that there's a little bit of my son's Play-Doh on my 3 wood, and it's kind of in a bubble shape for some reason, so I'm gonna pop that Play-Doh and water comes out. It was weird. Why in the world did my son play with Play-Doh and fill it with water? So anyway, I take some practice swings with this 3 wood and then I hit my caddy. Now the thing you need to understand is my caddy's actually a lion. I don't take any just normal caddies. My caddies when I play golf are lions. That's the way I go. So when I hit my caddy with my 3 wood, he roars. He is so mad. That thing hurt like crazy. He roars and then he foams at the mouth, okay? Again, I'm holding my 3 wood scared to death because my lion caddy just roared and foamed. He grabs my 3 wood and he slams it into the ground. He slams it so hard that the mountains nearby there's an earthquake, right? And there's a power line, you know, one of those with those transformers, and it explodes because there's such a surge of electricity. So that explosion helps remember surge, the earthquake with quake, all right? So let's go through that again. We've got though, because I've got my dough, which could be cookie dough. In this case, it's Play-Doh for my kids. Though its waters roar and foam. And where are we at? Sorry. And the mountains, and the mountains quake with their surging. All right, that's how I'm remembering verse 3. And again, even as I'm saying it, I'm still having to remind myself some of those things. But we're doing this all with our 3 wood. And so that's, again, what helps me remember that I'm at verse 3. Okay, are you with me still? Good. At this point, we've hit the ball. Even though I hit my caddy with the line, and it's time to get into the golf cart. Again, the golf cart having 4 wheels, so that's how I remember that I'm in 4, the verse number 4. And I see that there's a river down there, and I'm going to say, go there. I'm going to say the person that's driving, I don't drive my own golf cart. That's how good I am, just so you know. So I'm going to say, go there to the river, all right? And that's how I remember there is a river. So once we get to the river, imagine that this stream that you see going down, there's a trash bag. And that trash bag, you see that trash bag floating. Now for me, there's a couple ways I could remember this. I could remember that it's a Glad trash bag, because I mean, for me, for some reason, I remember trash bags as Glad brand. Or if you need to, you can put a big smiley face on the trash bag. All right, so whose streams make glad, and then you open it, you grab that as you're fording the river in your golf cart, you grab that trash bag, you open it up, and you pull out this Lego city that has the name God just like spray painted on it. So whose streams make glad the city of God, okay? It's really weird that you're finding this, but you still have the bag and you notice that there's stuff coming out the bottom because there's a hole in it. It's holy, a holy place. So I'm driving through this river and I just got to get to where my ball is. And I see that it's way up there on the hill. All right, that big hill, and on top of that hill is a well. All right, where the Most High dwells, and that well helps me with dwell. So again, there is a river whose streams make glad, that bag, and then you pull out the city of God. And then we go into the holy place where the Most High dwells. That's verse 4. Okay, verse 5. So now we are driving up to where that Most High dwells. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my golf glove. Again, that's how I remember 5. And I approach my ball. But something's weird about my ball as I approach it right now with my glove. It's like bursting at the seams with light. Have you ever seen that before in a movie where it almost looks like it's about to explode? It's got all this light coming out, these rays of light. And the other weird thing about it is my ball is now growing long hair, almost like a female. And the reason I need to do that is because we start using, at least in the NIV, the word she. And so I want to make sure I remember that word, and the way I'm going to do that is by putting beautiful blonde hair on my golf ball. All right, but remember, golf ball, to me, kind of represents God, all right? And that's why I'm going to remember this. So God is within her, that light that is within her. God is within her. So I approach that ball with my gloves. I pick it up to look at it, and then I let it go, and it magically floats. It does not fall. She, again, with the blonde hair, she will not fall. At that point, I'm just awestruck. So I get down and I pray for help. All right, and when I pray for help, that ball breaks. It breaks, and the sun is what comes out. The sun. Just imagine whatever picture of the sun that you can, like the sun that's in the sky, that's what we have. So we've got God is within her. All right, hold it up. She will not fall. And then you go down and pray, say, and God helps her at break of day. All right, God will help her at break of day. Again, sometimes I'll forget these words and I might have to put something in there, or maybe I'll just repeat it enough that it'll help me remember. God will help her at break of day. Some of these are a bit, I'm having to pull on a little bit of this, I admit, but hopefully as you're going through and repeating this enough that it'll still stick in your memory. So that is verse 5 right there. I've picked up that golf club or golf ball with my glove on. All right, moving through. We're more than halfway. We're on halfway through now. So verse 6, I've got my gun that I pull out to see how far I'm at to the green. And I look through the sight of that gun, that 6-shooter gun, which helps me remember the number 6. And you know what I see? Around the green, as I look through, you can almost even maybe put binoculars on. As I look through, I see flags surrounding the green, representing all of the nations, okay? And then suddenly my caddy, remember that lion, that lion comes up and roars at all the flags, and the flags fly up, right? The flags fly up, and then they fall down. And that whole picture right there helps me remember that nations are in uproar. My lion had roared and they went up, and then kingdoms fall. All of those flags had fallen to the ground. And the last one's an interesting one to me. Maybe you don't remember this. Do you ever remember watching The Little Mermaid? And part of what had happened with The Little Mermaid is that she lost her voice, and the voice was almost like this thing that came out of her and that was taken, and then she had to get it back. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but the next thing that I see is my lion and his voice coming out, and he lifts his voice and it melts. It's the weirdest thing. It melts down his paw and down into the green. So he lifts his voice, the earth melts. So that is verse 6. Again, I'm looking through my sights, whether that's binoculars or with a 6-shooter gun, whatever you can help you remember that 6. And I see the nations are in uproar. Roar! And then kingdoms fall. And then he lifts his voice and the earth melts. Great. Now we're moving to number 7. Okay, we've hit our ball into the water, and this water is separating us from the green. The crazy thing is, in order to cross over, we're going to have to walk on water. Can you believe that? And so that's where we have a couple different interesting pictures for me, and that we're going to have the Lord Almighty is with us. Now for me, I always tend to get the words Lord, Jesus, and Christ mixed up. The way that I remember the Lord is always with a sash. Anytime I see a sash in my brain, it's a memory that I've tried to, specifically put there. That's what helps me remember the Lord. If you ever know sign language, that's how you would say Lord, is you just show the L going onto the sash. And in this case, I actually have Jim Carrey, who's wearing that sash. I know that sounds sacrilege, but just follow along for a moment and have fun with me. So we've got him in his, Bruce Almighty, or even one of his others just going, alrighty then, right? And so we have the Lord Almighty, right? Or Bruce Almighty, however you want to remember that. But that's how I remember the Lord Almighty, and I put my arm around him, is with us. Okay, and he hands me a golf ball, and then he bends one of the clubs into a J shape and hands that to me as well. It's the weirdest thing, but he does that. So that's what helps me. The God of Jacob, right? J is our fortress. And I remember that by, okay, now I'm going to cross this river to get to the green. I'm going to do it on all 4s. Instead of doing it on my 2 feet, the weird thing is I'm actually going to go on all 4s. And that's the fortress. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. That's verse 7. All right, moving on. Verse 8. Remember, we're in the sand trap now. So we dropped the ball after we got through the river. We hit it up and we got it into the sand trap. Now, if you can imagine, the Lord is in the sand trap. Again, I've got the Lord with his sash on, and he's motioning with big gestures to come. This is the come motion that always, to me, represents the word come. Come and see what the Lord has done. Okay, so I can't even see what's going on up there in the sand trap. All I see is the Lord motioning me. Come and see what the Lord has done. And here's the weird thing, is he's actually built out of sand, all right, a desk with 4 legs. How in the world can you build a desk out of sand? It's impossible. It has to be the Lord, right? And in that, there's a big O with a world in the middle. Why do we do that? For me, I had a hard time trying to remember the word desolations. And so instead, I tried to break it up, and I said desk with an O in it. And those 2 together were enough to help me remember the desolations. It's a stretch, but that's what helped me remember the desolations, okay? The desolations he has brought on the earth. Again, we've got the earth in the middle of that O. So come and see what the Lord has done. The desolations he has brought on the earth. All right, now we're moving on to verse 9. We're looking up onto the green. And now that we're up on the green, we see the cast of cats. All right, if you know the Broadway musical, The Cats, or you can just have regular cats if you want to. For me, the idea is I just need to see something that has 9 lives, and that's a cat. And that's what helps me remember that we're on verse 9 right now. And they're all surrounding the green, and a couple of them are off to the side, and they're doing something interesting. They're making a war chest. So if you can imagine the war chest that you see in like the cartoons where, when you open it up, it's got all the gold inside. But that war chest is what they're in the midst of making. They're sawing the wood, they're making this war chest. And they're in the middle of my golf course, for goodness sakes. I'm a little bit ticked off. So I'm going to take that war chest and with superhuman strength that I didn't know I had, I'm going to chuck it all the way to the horizon, to the end of the earth. Okay? And so that's where he makes the wars cease to the ends of the earth. They're making it, war chest, wars cease to the end of the earth. Okay, so now we've got all that. And when we do that, all right, that's when all the other cats realize, whoa, this guy is angry. So they stand at attention as if they're in the army, and they pull out their bow and spear and shield. And this next part at least in the NIV, I find it really, really melodic. And so part of what I've done in memorizing the second half of verse 9 is I've turned it into something of a melody that I like. So it says, he breaks, or he bends, oops, I almost forgot what it says. There you go. He breaks the bow. That's right. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. So it almost, it flows, right, as you say it. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. So I'm watching this happen with the bow and the shield, or the spear that they drop it and it shatters on the green. And I'm also seeing them light fire to their shields. But I'm also kind of singing that whole phrase. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. I really like that. So that is verse 9. All right, verse 10 is a little bit odd. I mean, I guess all these are odd if you really think about it, but this is where I head with verse 10, okay? Imagine all of these bowling pins, okay? And the odd thing is they all have little feet and they're running around. So much so that I can't even get a good line on my putt because they're going around, they're running around. And I take a big breath in, and that big breath almost sounds like a he. I'm like, he, right? Can you hear that? He, I know, it's weird, but he, and then I say, be still. So that's what helps me. He says, be still. Some of these things, I've got to add them in order so that I don't forget to say he says. So he says, be still, okay? And they all drop. And at that point, this is a serious putt. So I'm gonna point to my head, no, and then I'm gonna take off my hat because this is such an important putt for me, and throw my hat. And oftentimes I'll use hat as a way to remember that, okay? So be still and know that he is God. That I am God, excuse me. And that's where we're at right now. We've got the bowling pin, the bowling pins that are sitting there. I've just taken off my hat that he is God. I don't really have anything to remember that. I be still and know that I am God is such a popular phrase. I've heard that so many times that it's not hard for me to remember that. What is hard for me to remember is what comes next, and that's where Will Smith comes back into the picture. And he's going to get behind where I'm putting, and he's going to eye it with one eye, right? And look down this line of where I'm putting. It's very awkward. Excuse me. It's very awkward, but that's what he's going to do. So that's what helps me. I will, and I'm going to have this first putt, and it's going to miss. And he's going to go, right? Again, Will Smith just going, So I will be exalted, all right, among the nations. And, I had actually, flags coming out from the bowling pins, but to be honest, I remember this verse really well. And so sometimes I don't have to have too many pictures for it. So I will be exalted among the nations. I take my second putt and I hit it. It goes in the hole. I will be exalted in the earth. So that's how I hit on verse 10. Verse 11, remember, it's an exact replica of verse 7, but we have a good, where we say, good, it's good, football sign, yes, and the Lord Almighty comes down to high-five me with both hands, okay? The Lord Almighty. I remember it's Jim Carrey with the sash, so I can remember the Lord Almighty, and he's with us, and he hands me that golf ball again. He hands me that J Club. The God of Jacob is our fortress. So this is the encoding. We've done all 11 verses, and if you've done it right, and you've placed this picture, these stories with each different place, you can actually say the verses in reverse, and you know exactly where verse 5 is, verse 8 is. I can remember any time that mountains are mentioned. I can remember any time that nations are mentioned because of the flags. All of these pictures that I've placed in certain places help me to remember these things, and I hope that they'll help you as well. The last part of this whole process, which is going to be the next video, is how we review, and I'm going to share that next. But for now, I hope this was useful. Give the video a like if it was. Comment with your thoughts. This is not the end-all be-all. I'm open to thoughts and suggestions and just what you think about this process, and hopefully you'll be able to take something away for yourself. God bless.